All right, we are back again for another video. This one is also suggested by one of our Patreon members, Colin. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Now, this is a YouTube video, and I want to say this is from quite a while ago. I think it said 7 years, and the title is "Professional Wrestling is Stupid and Beautiful," and I love it. And I gotta say that is a very accurate description. So let's check this out, man. Let's see, and this is from Super Eye Patch Wolf. I've never heard of them, but let's go ahead and check them out.
Okay, I'm guessing right about now, a lot of you are wondering why the hell a video about wrestling is showing up in your subscription feed. And I get it, wrestling is totally not for everybody. But it's also April 1st, which means your timeline is probably filled with April Fool's Day videos. And rather than add another to the pile, I thought I'd take this opportunity.
Bro, Paul Bear had one of the funniest voices. Oh, yeah. Oh my God, Paul. Rest in peace, bro.
Different. And talk about a form of entertainment I've loved for basically my entire life. And if you hate professional wrestling, if you're
is it the cash in?
I like to base myself covering such a ridiculous subject clearly aimed at children, well, first off, I have some bad news for you about the rest of this channel, and second, you are actually the person I'm making this video for. My goal here isn't to turn you into a wrestling fan, just to try and help you understand why so many people are. And understanding the world around us is a good thing, right? Even the parts of it that seem really dumb and insane.
Yo, wait. No, that's not Kenny Omega. That's not when Kenny Omega was wrestling with the
right?
No, because Kenny Omega was wrestling with damn, I can't remember. He's done something like this, but I can't remember if it was a kid or a doll.
Right. Okay, elephant in the room, wrestling is fake. And no, not even in the way Game of Thrones is fake. Professional wrestling is a pretend sport masquerading as a real one.
Okay, I have to stop you there. It's not fake. It's scripted. There is a difference. The fake part that I dispute is the actual physical activity. That part is not fake, but I'm pretty sure that y'all know this, but I just got to put it out there. I don't know if he's going to say it, but I can't use the word fake. Is it scripted? Absolutely. It's like a TV show, but you go get hit in the nose with a knee or a chair or get choke slammed or thrown out of the ring and you tell me if that's fake, but let's see what he says though.
These two women are not actually fighting.
Ember Moon, they fumbled her, and Samoa Joe.
An actual evil voodoo priest named Papa Shango. It's
Godfather.
Charles Wright, who's also played the role of a salty martial artist and a jovial pimp. And he, alongside an entire industry of his fellow wrestlers, all work together as a highly choreographed physical theater, the goal of which is to convince the audience that what they are seeing is an actual
the Young Bucks
event. This is the sticking point
Ms. Girl.
a lot of people in wrestling. The idea that it's fake and not a legitimate sport, thus devaluing it as a piece of entertainment. But to me, wrestling isn't devalued by the fact that it's fake, rather it's fascinating because of it. And through this, in a very strange way that I'm going to explain by the end of this video, can also be more real than virtually anything else on television.
Oh man, the streak.
The revelation that wrestling is fake is not a new one, not by a long shot. It was in 1938 that North American newspapers stopped reporting the results of pro wrestling because at that point, journalists had become wise to the idea that the results of these matches were predetermined.
Yeah.
Up until this point, wrestling had mainly been a sideshow at carnivals, but that changed when wrestling bookers learned two things. The first was that the sport was a lot more profitable for them if they could decide the outcome, but second, it was also a lot more entertaining for the audience. As rather than the matches being just a pure contest of strength and skill, where the winner could have all the potential charisma and charm of a bag of wet chalk, they could instead engage the crowd with heroes and villains and create rivalries and storylines.
Yeah, it's like TV and film. That's why I don't understand why people. Let me actually go big screen for this. I don't understand why people can't understand the concept of professional wrestling. When they accept Broadway plays, they accept movies, they accept reality TV shows, but they stop at wrestling as if it's the worst thing ever. When in actuality, these are real stunt men and women carrying out a storyline live. There's no mulligans. Like, it's live. Unless it's pre-taped because they got to go out of the country, it's live. Like, I don't know how you can, if you don't like it, that's one thing. But if you don't even give it the opportunity just because it's, oh, that's that fake thing, you don't try to understand it, that's on you. That's on you.
Around them, which would keep the audience coming back week after week. This would also skyrocket wrestling's popularity in the early days of television, turning what had started as a carny show into a national obsession, which also meant that now maintaining the illusion
like
that
the calf
wrestling
crusher
was real was more critical than ever. And this is what led to the implementation of kayfabe. Kayfabe was originally a code word wrestlers used to signal to each other that there were fans or outsiders nearby, and so the illusion of wrestling would need to be maintained. But in a much broader sense, it's a term used to refer to the portrayal of stage events as real, and specifically of wrestling as a legitimate contest and wrestling personas as actual people and real competitive athletes, meaning that wrestlers were expected to play their fictional wrestling personas whenever they were out in public. And so heroic wrestlers known as faces were expected to be friendly and kind to their fans, while villainous wrestlers known as heels were instructed to be unpleasant and antagonistic. And above all else, faces and heels were never ever to be seen together in public, as doing so would give way that the rivalry between the two was fabricated, thus exposing the secret reality of the business.
And to me, this died when the internet and social media really became like, I know people are going to say the curtain call. I know some people are going to say, well, the curtain call kind of like, and it may be something even before that, but I might not have been alive. But I would say that it really officially died once social media really started to pop off. And I don't mean just like modern social media. I mean, like, to me, there's a reason why Total Divas happened. There's a reason why they started leaning in to the concept of these characters are characters and not real people. Like, the more media outlets there became available and the more people had access to whatever's going on, you can't hide it for forever. People started to get camera phones. People started to record things and post them and put them on YouTube or out in the internet, some type of way, shape, or form, or exposing it. So it was only a matter of time before this was going to happen. Back in the day when you only saw wrestlers on TV or at shows or in territories or whatever, it was a lot easier to keep things hidden. But then it's kind of like the evolution of technology kind of like really got it to a point where you couldn't keep this up anymore. So, I mean, yeah, kayfabe is like, now they're even going so far as to doing the Unreal, which is really opening, pulling back the curtain so we see how things are even booked. So I can't even be mad at WWE for taking this approach, because if you don't get with the times, you get left behind. So
the illusion of kayfabe was fiercely maintained even well into the 90s. It was what allowed fans to let themselves believe that wrestling was real, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. As a wrestling fan, people were always eager to tell you that it was fake, but it was always easy to dismiss because it always came from people that disliked wrestling.
Yep.
But then, one fateful night,
the damn curtain call,
on May 19th, 1996, an incident would occur that would destroy the illusion of wrestling, and it was an incident known as the curtain call.
Yep.
The curtain call took place right in the center of Madison Square Garden, and it involved a group of 4 wrestlers who shared an off-camera friendship and were known backstage as the Clique: Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels, and Paul Levesque. This was the last night Hall and Nash would be performing under the banner of WWF, and the following day would be jumping ship to rival company WCW.
You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
Rivals in WWF's storyline at this point. And in the final match of the night, Michaels was set to defeat Nash in a steel cage match. But what wasn't part of the script was what came after the match's conclusion, when the cameras stopped rolling, when Michaels straddled his unconscious opponent and revived him with a Snow White-esque kiss. Fans looked on, bewildered and stunned, and then, to add to the confusion, Hall and Levesque both came to the ring, and the four friends celebrated an emotional farewell. The problem, though, was that this was not part of the WWF canon storyline. Not only did these four wrestlers not have an on-camera friendship, they were meant to actively despise one another, with Hall and Michaels both being beloved faces and Nash and Levac loathed heels. But if that was true, then why were they all in the ring hugging and celebrating?
Look
Were
at
these
that
guys
grainy ass
actually
footage.
friends? Oh my god. The incident never aired on national television, but it didn't matter. The advancement of home camcorder technology alongside the rise of the internet
Yep.
meant that the footage was captured by fans
Somewhere.
to rampage across the World Wide Web. And the
Now, I will say still at this time, yes, certain people had access to the internet. And if we being completely honest, when I was younger, the internet was what people who had a little bit more money, they had the internet. I didn't grow up with the internet. I think I had to go to like my grandmother's house or somebody who actually was doing a little bit better in life. They had the internet. You couldn't be on the phone at the same time. You had like dial up. Like, I don't remember hearing anything about like the curtain call, or I didn't even find out about this until I got older. So I don't know how fast this spread across the internet. But again, not everybody had access to the internet. So it's not like today where it's literally on our phones where we can go look at it right here, right now. But once technology just kept advancing, it was only a matter of time before this stuff was going to be leaking out.
result was that the illusion of kayfabe that professional wrestling had shrouded itself in for so many years was left tattered and broken, with wrestling audiences around the world faced with the now undeniable fact that wrestling was fake, and underneath the facade
Latino
lay a
heat.
separate reality, a reality that lay just below the surface, tantalizingly out of sight. This is what would lead to the modern era of pro wrestling. To wrestling fans now, the secret that wrestling is scripted is not a secret. Instead, what we have now is a form of entertainment that exists in two separate realities: the fictional world of kayfabe and the actual real-life business and politics behind it. Which leaves us with the question, if
Push
wrestling
MJF.
is fake and that knowledge is widely known, then what then is the appeal of it?
This is what really gets me. I don't understand why it's so hard of a concept to understand. The same way you have friend groups or certain groups who talk about Harry Potter and maybe theories of Harry Potter, the same way people talk about Marvel and the Avengers. Like, nobody is really getting like mad that Tom Holland is really not Spider-Man, or Tobey Maguire was not really Spider-Man. Like, nobody cares about that. And I guess maybe the biggest issue is I can understand in the beginning. Trust me, when I first found out wrestling was scripted, I was like, wait, so I've been lied to? But I was a child, right? I was a kid. I don't understand why all these years later today, people still are pressed about it not being, like, all this information that we have now and everything that's come out. I don't understand why people are still pressed about it being scripted, where in the same breath, if we know we can attribute it to being like TV and film, they're playing an on-screen character. Why is it that you can't understand that when a lot of these groups, like, they get together and talk about Game of Thrones, like they get together and talk about The Walking Dead? I don't understand how it's so hard to understand today. I get it. When it first happened, it was hard to digest and accept. It's 2025, fam. It's 2025. If there's still people who think wrestling is crazy or they don't understand the concept, don't mean you got to like it. But if you don't understand it and you just crap on it just because, like, you just want to be negative.
If someone wants to watch a genuine contest of skill,
Right, go watch UFC.
Then why not just go watch UFC?
Facts.
And the answer to that lies in the fundamental difference between the
Sling
two.
Blade.
That this is a competition and this is a story.
Right.
Wrestling, like so many other forms of fiction, is about telling stories. I want you to look at these clips and forget for a moment that you're watching wrestling. Just try and imagine your own body performing these maneuvers. Think about the years of training
Bing, V-trigger.
to move like this, and about the timing and trust you need to have in another person to execute these sequences. And ask yourself, what is all that effort for? What is actually being achieved here? And the answer is that they're building a narrative through the suspension of disbelief.
Right.
The suspension of disbelief is the simultaneous belief in two inconsistent things. Anyone who watches The Matrix believes both that we're watching a fight between Neo and Morpheus, but is aware that we're actually watching Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne perform a choreographed sequence of actions being shot on a film set.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on. And I'm glad he used The Matrix too.
And it's the filmmaker's job to make it as easy on the audience as possible to suppress that second idea, which is why solid acting, writing, and editing is so important, because a discrepancy in any particular one could break the audience's immersion, destroying our investment in the story. But immersion is also something that's created in very different ways in different forms of art. Take the far simpler medium of rakugo. Rakugo is a minimalist form of Japanese theater involving a single actor kneeling on stage, whose only props are a fan and a piece of cloth. And with this ultra minimalist setup, they play out entire stories, even embodying multiple characters, using subtle gesturing and posing along with tonal inflection to convey different people.
You gotta
And
be a
so
good-ass
the
actor
immersion,
and storyteller.
The suspension of disbelief is created purely through the physical performance of the actor. A skilled rakugo can make it feel like an actual story with a full cast of characters is playing out in front of us, despite the fact we can very clearly see it's just one person kneeling on stage. Wrestling works the exact same way. Just like film, just like rakugo, what the performers are ultimately trying to do is make us believe that what we're seeing is real. And not only just in the staged violence, but also by embodying these characters and their emotions. One of the things I love about Kaneko Arai, real name to former NXT Women's Champion Asuka, is that from the moment she steps out into an arena, everything from her wardrobe to the way she walks to how she plays with the camera embodies this fascinating fictional character, a bizarre, violent person who takes distinct glee in breaking her opponents apart. And because of how good Arai is at conveying this character both through her wrestling and the subtlety of her actions, you don't see the actual performance behind it. You just see Asuka,
Exactly.
the Empress of Tomorrow.
Auntie
This is
Asuka.
something that all great wrestlers do, the embodiment of a fictional persona, a character. And so, all a wrestling match is what happens when two of these fictional characters meet at particular points in their lives, and the story that unfolds through that. Granted, that might sound a little weighty, so to show this, Piper was the defending Intercontinental Champion, a fan favourite, and the far more experienced of the two, who begins to decimate his younger opponents with a string of vicious illegal assaults. Until finally, Hart, now bloody and battered, rallies, gaining a read on his opponent once again and countering everything Piper can throw at him. Until finally, Piper, left with no other option, knocks the referee unconscious and grabs hold of the ring bell, and is about to use it to put his... There is
storytelling,
so much
bro.
to this match. It's basically an entire fallen hero / villain redemption story arc told in 16 minutes without any dialogue, purely conveyed through the physical storytelling of both wrestlers. And from
Amazing,
here,
bro.
Piper's career would start to fade, and Bret, after years of success, would eventually find himself in a match where the roles were reversed.
Him and
Now,
Austin.
He was the veteran the crowd had turned against.
Him and Austin.
As he faced off against the new rising star of the
Absolutely,
company,
the double
Stone
turn.
Cold Steve Austin.
Hell
This
yeah.
is what professional wrestling is. And while it's not always good or even socially acceptable,
Oh, yeah, I
when
forgot
it's at
the
its
Big
best,
Boss
it
Man
can be
got
exciting to funny to even occasionally
emotional.
genuinely heartbreaking. And the knowledge that these events are scripted for me doesn't take anything away from the emotional impact they have, in the same way that knowing you
Hey,
just a bunch of cells being photographed in rapid succession doesn't take away from the emotional impact of that. Okay, everything we just talked about, that's all the kayfabe side of wrestling, the fictional performance created by the wrestlers and writing staff. But as we mentioned earlier, there is another side to wrestling, and that's the actual reality behind it. When you begin to look into the industry of pro wrestling for long enough, a strange thing starts to happen, and that is that the line between what's real and what isn't gradually begins to blur.
Yep.
And you begin to see moments when the
Montreal
fictional
screw
world
job.
of kayfabe and the actual reality of the business begin to bleed into one another. And identifying the point where one starts and the other ends.
Oh, yeah. Damn, I remember that, man. Also, in regards to the Montreal screw job, if you've never seen Wrestling with Shadows, definitely go check that documentary out.
Becomes nearly impossible. And
Shout out to my
show
boy
this,
Jeff.
We need to go back to the curtain call. The curtain call and its shattering of kayfabe was seen by many of the wrestlers and staff within the WWF as an appalling attack on wrestling. And so there had to be punishment. Someone had to pay the price for this transgression.
Yep.
It couldn't be either Scott Hall or
They were
Kevin
gone.
Nash, as they had both already left the
Yep,
company.
they were gone.
And it couldn't be Shawn Michaels because he, at the time,
Lost
was
his
the
smile.
current WWF champion and already a problem in many other areas. And so the entirety of the blame fell on Paul Levesque.
Ain't that crazy? Ain't that crazy? Ain't that crazy? Bro, there's so much to this story about the curtain call and who had to take the fall. Triple H, who went on to have an amazing career. DX, Beyond DX, being the Game, multi-time champion, ends up being the Authority, COO. Bro, now that the fact that this man is literally the face of running WWE and he married the boss's daughter, bro, bro, that's it. That's a crazy turn of events, bro.
An upper mid-card wrestler with a lot of potential who seemed bound for greatness. And as punishment, his entire career was derailed.
But the other, oh man, hold on. The other thing about this is when you start to look at the butterfly effect of the curtain call, like in all of its different branches, he probably gonna talk about it, but whatever. The fact that we don't get the Austin 316 promo if that doesn't happen. We don't know if we get the Stone Cold Steve Austin that we know of if that doesn't happen. Like, it is insane to think about everything, every effect from the curtain call, obviously when it came to kayfabe, when it came to Stone Cold Steve Austin, when it came to Triple H, like it is unreal just to think of all of the different scenarios that could have went different if that didn't happen.
Once again, being forced to endure a string of humiliating losses in matches that showed him as weak and ineffective, with other wrestlers shrugging off his attacks
Ahmed Johnson
and quickly and easily defeating him.
Damn, this is
like
what
this is devastating to a wrestler.
That's what you call burial.
It destroys the
For people who want to use the word get buried, listen, this is what burial is. This is what burial is. Not somebody taking a loss that may be potentially telling a story for them to, all right, this is going to set up for either my heel turn or this is going to set up, me either looking like the underdog. Sami Zayn, in this case, he's been like the underdog for forever. This was an actual burial.
Fictional credibility a wrestling persona has with the audience, and therefore severely damages their ability to draw a crowd and thus earn a living wage. But this was the new reality that Levesque now faced. None of this was part of the actual WWF storyline or even mentioned on TV. From the audience's perspective, all that was happening was Levesque was a wrestler who used to win a lot and then suddenly stopped. Now, let's take a moment that came 4
I am the
years
fucking
later.
game, JR.
At this point, Levesque had sweat and bled his way back to the top of the card and had been reborn as title contender Triple H. And in an interview that was meant to be kayfabe, that was meant to be scripted,
Nah, B.
this
Bro, how is all of this stuff happening near my birthday? That technically was, how many years ago was this? 99 is 2025. 26 years ago, almost to the day. It is the 26th. This was July 25th on Sunday Night Heat. That is crazy, bro.
Hey, watch your language. What, you want me to shoot with this interview? I'm gonna shoot with it. It's a B.
The thing to note here is that he's referring to events that never took place in the fictional WWF storyline. Is it the fictional wrestling persona Triple H?
Or Paul.
Or is it the actual human being behind the persona, Paul Levesque? The person who had to actually endure the ire of WWF management for years and nearly saw his career ruined? And the answer is that it's both. It's both Triple H and Paul Levesque. And the result is that there's an honesty and an anger that's genuinely captivating.
I will always say the best storylines are when there's kayfabe and reality involved. Matt Hardy, Edge, and Lita. One of the craziest things that actually happened. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. Like, whenever you really can blur the lines of kayfabe and reality, you're going to get some of the best television story, whatever you want to call it. And this is just another case of that.
As the reality starts to fuel the fiction, and there are dozens of instances.
The Montreal screw job, like, bro, like, these are some of the most iconic storylines. Well, I don't even know if iconic, yes, but like I would say famous, infamous, whatever you want to call it, memorable. But the fact that it was real and fake at the same time, scripted. Let me not say fake, because then y'all gonna hold that against me. Oh, you said it wasn't fake. Y'all know what I mean. I'm talking about the storylines. Though, that's what's scripted. All of that. Yeah.
Like this that have taken place throughout the years of wrestling. The Montreal Screwjob, the forced retirement and recent return of Daniel
Bryan with The Miz,
in which former wrestler CM Punk took to a mic and verbally rendered the entire WWE, laying waste to the management, his fellow wrestlers, and even his own fans.
Is insane, bro. That is insane. That is insane.
Of all forms of entertainment, in no other is the line between fiction and reality so delicate and malleable, where the fourth wall is so fragile, and when it does finally give way, it can lead to some of the most intense and oddly sincere storytelling in any form of entertainment. As fake as wrestling can be, these are the moments when it becomes shockingly real. Wrestling is just a story about people. No matter how theatrical a wrestling persona is, at its core, it's just a person. One as real and flawed as anyone else. And when you start to watch wrestling for long enough, it's the stories of these people that become the main draw as you watch them grow and age and change. So to conclude this video, I want to talk about one of these stories. I want to talk about the saga of the Golden Lovers. Our story begins in 2008 as two young wrestlers wage war on one another. The first is Kota Ibushi, a young, supremely talented Japanese wrestler who seems bound for greatness. And the other is Kenny Omega, a Canadian wrestler who, after seeing tapes of Ibushi's matches, felt destined to face him. And so he issued an open challenge to Kota, which Ibushi accepted, and so Omega traveled to Japan and a showdown took place that was messy, brutal, and mesmerizing.
I gotta watch this match now.
Ibushi eventually took the victory, but it didn't matter. Over the course of the match, the two wrestlers realized something. There was a connection here. Both wrestlers believed that wrestling could be more than just wrestling. It could be a vehicle for comedy, a way to tell stories, hell, it could even be art. And together, the two resolved to change the world of wrestling. Omega uproots his entire life and moves to Japan to be closer to Ibushi. And rather than become rivals, they form a tag team, initially being pitched as the Golden Brothers, but Omega and Ibushi prefer the name the Golden Lovers. The Golden Lovers are on a level few other tag teams can even approach. There's a kinship and a synchronicity here that fuels their matches. But what's more, they seem genuinely delighted to be around each other.
That's just good chemistry.
In the ring and outside it.
That's just good chemistry.
Shows in their exceptional teamwork and performances.
Hey, look at
the Japanese audience embracing
look at Finn, bro,
wholeheartedly as they capture multiple tag titles. And by 2011, it feels like their dream is beginning to come true. The Golden Lovers are inseparable, and they are changing the face of wrestling. But slowly, a gap starts to form between the two. While Kota only needs to rely on his God-given natural talents, Kenny often struggles, having to work hard to overcome his own weakness and to keep pace with Ibushi, and he starts to feel outpaced by his genius partner. Kota's genius doesn't go unnoticed either. He's being given more opportunities as a single wrestler, and what's more,
Is that Luke Gallows?
he's winning. And with each victory, Kenny feels a little more left behind. And so on August 18th, 2012, after 3 years of partnership, the two face each other. And what follows is one of the most spectacular matches in history. Kota fighting for his pure love of wrestling, and Kenny desperately battling as to not be left behind.
I gotta
by
watch
the
this
person
match.
he cares about
I gotta
most.
watch this match.
But it's not enough. He cannot overcome the genius of Ibushi. And afterwards, both wrestlers look devastated. Kenny for the loss, and Kota for having inflicted it upon him. Over the next 2 years, the gap between the two would only continue to widen. Ibushi continues to rise, even going so far as to face the legendary King of Strong Style,
Shinsuke Nakamura. Oh, what a... Oh, bro. I'm so... Like, I didn't know anything about Shinsuke when he was in New Japan, but I know how big of a deal he was by the way everybody else speaks about Shinsuke and how he has fallen from grace. And it bothers me that they could not find a way to translate that to WWE. And now Shinsuke is just, I mean, even with giving him the US Championship a couple months ago, he's literally just in limbo.
Meanwhile, Kenny struggles without his former partner, gaining only modest wins and racking up several major losses, including one...
Finn is another one. Make Finn great again. Come on.
Especially crushing defeat at the hands of Prince Devitt, a member of the villainous Bullet Club, a vicious faction of American wrestlers who spit in the face
Styles.
of Japanese pro wrestling, overwhelming opponents with their superior numbers and brutal tactics. And the experience changes Omega. He can't help feel that now, without Ibushi by his side, he is alone. But Devitt has an entire army of allies behind him, and so a realization dawns on him. Maybe with the Bullet Club, he could finally become strong enough to stand as an equal with Ibushi. And so 2 weeks later, he emerges as their newest member. And it works. He
One winged
wins,
angel.
and he keeps winning until the day finally comes when his mentor and leader of the Bullet Club, AJ Styles, faces Kota for the IWJP Heavyweight Championship. In typical Bullet Club fashion, Kenny was expected to sabotage Ibushi, but he can't. He holds back for the entire match until its final moments, when Ibushi scales the turnbuckle and is seconds from victory, only to turn his head and see Kenny standing on the ring apron, and the two lock eyes. And Kenny becomes paralyzed between his loyalty for the Bullet Club and his feelings towards his former partner, and so fails to act. But this momentary distraction is
Styles
just
clash.
enough time for Styles to recover, and he counters Ibushi's
Bang.
attack for a crushing comeback defeat. Afterwards, Omega is visibly shaken, while Ibushi lies devastated both by the loss and the betrayal of his former partner. Not long after, Ibushi disappears from the Japanese wrestling scene, while Omega only continues to grow more ruthless, vicious, and victorious. And he begins to dominate New Japan, shrouding himself in the indestructible armor of the Bullet Club and even deposing Styles as its leader, taking the crown for himself. This new invincible Kenny Omega even makes it to the very final of the G1 Climax, the most elite wrestling tournament in the entire world. But his conquest has taken its toll, and he enters the match battered and exhausted, facing the immovable and dangerous Hiroki Goto, who punishes Omega again and again,
This is a good-ass
constantly
video.
pushing him to the brink of defeat. And as the light of victory begins to fade away, Omega reaches deep down inside himself, and what he finds is his old partner Ibushi, whose finisher, the Shining Star Powerbomb, he uses in a final sequence of moves to overcome Goto and take the win.
Poetic.
And so finally, he's done it.
Poetic.
He's the best in the world. But without Ibushi by his side, how much does it actually mean? This inner conflict is only made worse when a year later Omega suffers a crushing loss in the finals of the same tournament. And afterwards, backstage, comes face to face with Ibushi for the first time since his betrayal. And Ibushi reaches out to comfort Omega, but Kenny cannot accept it. Things have gone too far. It's too late.
Damn.
And slowly, the unbreakable armor
Jay White
Omega has surrounded himself in begins to crack and crumble. And sensing weakness, the other members of the Bullet Club begin to turn on him, with the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes using his feelings for Ibushi as a weapon against him, culminating in a savage attack on Kota, only to have Omega furiously defend his former partner. This eventually leads to the Bullet Club turning on Kenny, destroying him with a vicious assault, only for Ibushi to run to the ring and
Bro,
save
I want to
his
go
former
back and
partner.
watch
And
all
then,
of this.
in a moment that's been 10
'Cause I've seen these clips. But I've never watched the entire thing. Like, I've never watched the entire thing, like, from like either show to show or the actual story. And I know a lot of people are talking about Cody and potentially going heel or turning heel, and they kind of draw the parallel from what we're watching right now. But this is so I want to go back. I wish I could have watched this in real time, but I did not know anything about it. I didn't know how to watch it. I didn't know anything.
years in the making, the two finally just stand in the ring and face one another. Ibushi desperate to reform their partnership, but it's just too late. Too much has happened and the scars run too deep. Omega cannot accept his former partner. Until...
And that is all. These moments right here are what it's all about. The climax to such a long drawn story till you get to like these moments, bro. These moments,
After
bro.
a story 10 years in the making, the Golden Lovers are reunited. What's so incredible to me about the saga of the Golden Lovers is that it's a story that could only really occur in wrestling. One that's about two people who felt a connection and formed something beautiful, only to later be torn apart by the different directions life pulled them in, and then finally, years later, to realize what really mattered. And what's more, identifying what's real here and what isn't is nearly impossible. Omega was genuinely a young wrestler who was inspired by a videotape of Ibushi. Ibushi's talent did outshine Omega, and
Damn,
the
that's a
two
strong-ass
were
table.
genuinely caught between their love of competing together,
Bro, that's
and
just
their
such good
aspirations
chemistry.
as single wrestlers. And as a result, there's a heart and a strife to this story that's so genuine and real. And I think at its best, that's what wrestling can be. Yes, it's fake, but that doesn't mean it can't be honest. Doesn't mean its stories can't be about real things that we can all relate to.
That's a fact, bro. That's a fact. I feel like we've all had friends we've either fell out with. Like, there's the core foundation of the storyline is something that everybody can relate to. Maybe it's not as theatrical as he was saying, and maybe it's not as like drawn out and perfect from a storyline perspective, but we've all had friends we fell out with. We've all had to either address the situation down the line. We realize, oh, it wasn't what we thought it was. What's more important is, getting past what petty differences we had. Like, there's so many real life things that we draw from it, and that's what draws us in, man. It's just a storyline version of it.
This is why I'm still a fan.
Facts.
Why so many people are. And why I think, at least, that professional wrestling is fascinating.
Bro.
Friends, thank you for joining me
Yo.
today. And particularly if you're
W-ass video. W video, man. That was a great watch. That was a great watch. I don't think it's any more after this. I think it's just like he's just showing love to his Patreon. Shout out to them. Shout out to y'all. But fam, this got to go up on YouTube too. I got to put this up on YouTube. But man, if this is your first time watching anything wrestling related, if this is your first time watching one of my videos, appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's dope that if you're getting interested in wrestling, like watching this definitely gives you an understanding of why we watch, how we suspend disbelief, and we don't go into it thinking that, oh, all of this stuff is scripted and fake. We watch it as if we're watching a show, because you don't go into watching any other movie or whatever and you address, at least from what I consider real fandom, you don't address the actual actor or actress. You address the character. And I feel like this is a good way to keep it enjoyable. Some strange reason over the past couple years, there's been a effort to focus more on the reality side, as if we're booking the matches, as if we know everything, as if we're behind the scenes. But if you really want to enjoy it, the best thing to do, man, is to suspend disbelief and just believe what's on the screen, man. But appreciate y'all for watching, man. If you don't mind hitting that like and subscribe button on your way out. Bro, this was such a good video, man. But until next time, I will see y'all back in the ring.